On today's episode of RPG Book Club...
Space, gotta go to space, lady, 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 let's go to space, going to space, can't wait.
Welcome to the RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little chunk of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I'm Michael Rodriguez.
I am Sam Allman.
I'm Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
And I'm Michael Spiffle Webben.
And today we'll be playing Rogue Galaxy to the end of Chapter 1, The Departure.
You did it. You said it. You said
Thank
the whole
you.
thing.
Woo! Thank
Yay.
you. I feel like you've
So
leveled up.
good.
Intro completed.
Intro completed. Just like this chapter.
Exactly.
Yes. So this is probably going to be a super short episode because I wanted to give us space to talk about like the history and stuff. I didn't and then the rest of the time we're going to be doing 2 chapters at once, but I didn't expect this first chapter to literally be the tutorial.
Horrendously short chapter.
It's like criminally short. So
Should have
this will
just
be
been an epilogue.
Yeah, or that's what I thought it was going to be was the prologues. Like when you, spoilers, you get on a boat. That's the end of this thing. When you got on the boat, I was expecting that to be chapter 1. So I go to save at the thing, and it's like chapter 2, the jungle planet. And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
well, I guess we're done.
I didn't
was
know
like,
that I was in Chapter 2 until I saved.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't
So-
give you a pop up, which is
Yeah.
yeah.
Very-
So that's one thing we learned. Me and Eli on PS4 get achievements when we complete a chapter.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
so we'll be able to tell people like, oh hey, save after this point, just in case someone's in the zone, and because like you very easily could have been in the zone, assumed you were still in chapter 1, and did most of the jungle planet for crying out loud.
Very cool. Question, does anyone have any history about the game?
Okay, so I came into this game not knowing a ton about the game itself, but I do know a lot about Level 5, the company. So I came into it with some expectations, which are certainly coloring my experience in some strange ways. So Level 5 is I don't know like who formed them or anything. I don't know like if any of the developers came from another company or anything. That'd be interesting to look into actually, but whatever. So they come around the scene with what I think was their first game, or at least their first game that was in any way notable, Dark Cloud. And Dark Cloud is a real cute game. It's that very typical kind of medium budget PS2, very innocuous little game. It's and I mean that in a good way. I'm not saying being medium budget innocuous is bad, but it's not ostentatious, you know. So you play as a cute little dude, and you go, and it's pretty much just a dungeon crawler. You do the town, you go deeper and deeper into the dungeon, and it's real cute. And that's where Level 5 started. They already started a couple of their quirks, and if I was to say Level 5's number one quirk, it is just systems on top of systems on top of systems. They are maximalist game designers through and through. If you've played, they did not make the Xenoblade series, but they might as well have. It's very similar. Like, there's 50 billion systems, and half of them you don't even understand or care about, but it all comes together and you enjoy the game anyway. So Dark Cloud 2, is a much more fully formed game. It's where they really started being level 5-y. They added just a zillion things. Crafting, tons of crafting. Before crafting was like in every game. And
That was
super
actually
cute.
one of the things that my friends were talking about Rogue Galaxy back in the day. They were like, oh my god, like you can craft your weapons instead of having to sell them. Like nobody did crafting at the time.
Yeah. So that was one of their things. But anyway, it's a Rogue game. It had cel shaded graphics. The second one, really cool. But then after that, they had their big break. They were not exactly contracted. I don't know exactly the business arrangement, but they ended up making the 8th Dragon Quest game. And if you know me, I'm the Dragon Quest guy. Huge fan of Dragon Quest. And the thing is, the Dragon Quest series has always had a co-developer. The first, you know what? I'm not going to say something that's wrong, but the first certain amount were made by Chunsoft, which is funny because now they're Spike Chunsoft and they Danganronpa. And then eventually they made, some were made by, I think 6 and 7 were made by Heartbeat. And then 7 was also made by Arte Piazza, but they just did the graphics engine. And then 8 was made by Level 5. I don't know the division of power exactly, because it's not just, Enix has developers. Yuji Horii is the head designer, the head writer. For Dragon Quest 1 through, I think, 7, he wrote every single line of dialogue in the game, every NPC, everything. and did a lot of the game design. The games are very, what do you call them? They're very consistent throughout the series. So even when you get to 8 with level 5, they're following most of the rules that Dragon Quest sets in place. Most of the same spells, same numbers, same general philosophy of the game design. But here's how they applied the level 5ness to it. First of all, cel-shaded graphics. Also, huge, beautiful cel-shaded graphics.
Oh, yeah.
Secondly, they did level 5 systems. They added crafting. So Dragon Quest 8, it's like Yuji Horii asks level 5, so what do you want to do to add your personal stamp onto Dragon Quest? And they're like, crafting, duh. But in addition to that, it had a lot of other stuff. It had monster training, which was in the previous games, but they did it in a different way, and all sorts of stuff. But the main thing about that game is it was so solid and competently made, and what I mean by that is just like every single thing was like perfect. Like it wasn't in any way a downgrade from the previous games in the series. It wasn't glitchy. The aesthetic was clear and readable. The mechanics were well explained. It, like most Dragon Quest games, it didn't feel janky or loose. And that's why it's funny going from that game to Rogue Galaxy. Rogue Galaxy feels like a much more amateur game, but it's weird because they had already made Dragon Quest VIII and they had an even bigger budget for Rogue Galaxy. So it's very strange. And actually, for the record, I'm very much enjoying this game, but it was a shock to the system because it was not at all the level of just like tightness, and meticulousness that I expect from level 5. I'm wondering if maybe somewhere the development got a little rocky, to lead into
what I think it probably is. What I think it probably is its scope got a little out of hand because one thing that everyone credits this game for is how huge in scope it is. So I did look up while you were talking what where level 5 came from, and the only famous game that the people from level 5 had done before was Prince of Persia.
That game owns. Also, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite games ever.
So the company where they all left from was called River Hill Soft. They were known for the successful J.B. Harold Murder Club series of point-and-click adventure games, and then they published Prince of Persia for Japan. So they just did the port of it.
It's a Western game.
Oh, it was. Oh,
yeah,
okay,
Western developed.
Okay.
And then they did a couple survival horror games, most notably the Overblood series. And Overblood, the developer of that, was the guy who left and founded Level 5. So you get from Prince of Persia and survival horror and J.B. Harold Murder Club, and you end up at Dark Cloud. And I really wasn't expecting that to be the jump.
So for all intents and purposes, Level 5 definitely, because the previous stuff was so different, Level 5 basically did start at Dark Cloud then.
Absolutely.
As we know them today. Cool. That's interesting. Yeah. And this game definitely is a level 5 game because I did what you always do when you start a game, which is you look at the manual. And I'm looking at the manual, and I'm like, oh, it's got crafting. And then I flip a few pages later, and I'm like, wait, is this a different kind of crafting?
Yep.
And then I go a few pages later, and I'm like, there's a monster collecting system, but you don't just collect them, you train them and raise them, and they're little insects, and you can mate them and make other monsters, and you feed them, and there's a whole, chess battle animal system. Oh my god, this is ridiculous. This is definitely level 5 game.
Yeah. So, the only other bit of backstory I really wanted to touch on about Rogue Galaxy. If other people had other stuff to jump in, go ahead. I know Eli heard of this 4 weeks ago when I told him about it.
Yep.
But so this game came out in 2005 and then was released in North America in January 2007. Then was re-released in Japan in March 2007 as a director's cut, which had some of the new stuff from the North American version. Which is as I was typing out these facts, I realized that a lot of the PS2 era RPGs did that because they had ideas for DLC, but DLC wasn't a thing. So when they were like, oh, hey, those Americans got back to us with their translation, what if we put in an extra boss? You guys want to do that, right? So they would do that. And so most notably for Kingdom Hearts, you have the Japanese version, which is okay, and then you have the North American version where they add a lot of stuff. Then you have one more final version when they bring it back over to Japan for the final mix that uses the North American voice actors, because they have the real voice actors from the movie for North America. They don't in Japan, and so you have the real North American voice acting plus all the new systems plus 3 or 4 new bosses, because why not? And like that was just how it worked back in the PS2 era.
Kind of makes
And the
sense. It's like,
saves,
if you were a developer and you had a chance to do like a do-over, you'd be like, oh, now's my chance to add in that thing that I meant to do originally, or fix that one screw up that I've been kicking myself about.
and so part of it makes me wonder if like the faster localization times that we have like on average nowadays. I know Dragon Quest 11 is still a long one, but like Persona was like 6 months for Persona 5. Pokemon is day and date. Xenoblade was day and date. All of these things. I wonder if that's because they're like, look, we know you like the extra development time. We can just put out DLC now. So,
well, actually, you're citing Dragon Quest 11 as the counterexample, but that actually proves your point even further, because Dragon Quest 11's Western release has a ton of changes and extra stuff, and that's why it's taking so long.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is exactly right.
Yeah. So, just in case you guys didn't listen 4 weeks ago, if you're like, oh, I don't like Persona, I want to start on the next game. First off, hi. Thanks for checking us out.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for coming by. I'm so glad you came down this street, you know.
Yeah.
I don't come down
Thanks.
here because it looks a little weird.
Yeah.
It's not very clean, but we're a good bunch of people.
Yeah, our ice cream truck is just like a panel van that's just has ice cream and spray paint on the side. But so 4 episodes ago, I mentioned that this game was really important to me, but I never got to turn it on for more than 5 seconds because all my friends were telling me about it. They were like, oh my God, this is so good. You have to play it. Crafting is a thing. But then Hurricane Ike came through and took my PS2 with it. So I never got to play. Like, I think I turned it on and I was like, oh my God, it's Eric Matthews. And then that's all I got before I got to do it. So
rough, man.
yeah. So I've been like so excited to play this game so much that like when I heard that we were going to be playing it, I bought the HD re-release for PS4 and gave my copy that I spent like 3 years of hunting it down at Game Over and gave that to Michael because I was like, no, fuck it, I don't even want to play that version. There's an HD remake. I've waited 15 years. I deserve this.
Well, to be completely fair, I mean, if you have the option to play the HD remake, you should, because this game on the PS2 is pretty. So if an HD remake is available, then like that's probably the better way to go anyway.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, we are 2 and 2 because me and the 2 Michaels are on the OG version.
Yeah. So we got me and Eli are on PS4. Those guys are on their PS2. Michael Rodriguez had he went through it a little bit to get my PS2 to work because my charger died on him the day he's sitting down to play it. So
yeah,
or not charger, the power
not even
cable.
Being dramatic either. I literally plugged it in and I was like, I'm gonna put the 2 hours that I need to play this right now, and then I messaged him. I'm like, wait, this isn't working. So, yeah. I went to Game Over and then I bought a new one. So thankfully they had one left over. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, we have one left over, and I'm like, all right, I'll take that. Thanks, bye.
Okay, so
Let's start the game.
Yeah, let's start the game. So I press start and I get ready because I've started a lot of JRPGs recently, and almost every single one of them gives me a music video at the beginning, and it hypes me up. The best one is
Final Fantasy X-2. Thank you. End of the discussion.
I haven't played it, so I don't know. But my personal favorite is Tales of Grace's F, which we'll be playing eventually. But like its thing just like it's so good. It's one of me and my wife's favorite tracks. Like one time, and this is a real story. So I used to work at a movie theater and I was a manager, so I could do like after hour screenings for employees and stuff. So we were going to watch Hook the weekend that that Robin Williams died, but it was on Netflix. So I brought my PS3 to plug it up to be a Netflix machine so we could watch it. And so I have my employees are behind me, but Summer's there with me. So I turn on my PS3 and I go to Tales of Grace's F and I play the intro just so we can like rock out and see it on the big screen. But So like I was so thirsty to see like, all right, what is Rogue Galaxy going to do for me? And
Yeah, like come on, impress me.
It doesn't. It just loads up to the main menu, and I was really mad. I don't even know what I'm playing for if there's not an opening intro
What
movie.
am I playing for?
This game that you've been waiting to play since 2006 has already lost you.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
obviously reminiscent of Star Wars. It literally just is a background with stars, and it's a story at the top.
Except it's
Yeah.
in like this weird sort of Comic Sans font.
Yeah.
I do not like that font.
Yeah.
A lot
feel like
of RPGs use that font, and
That has not to say. It'd ring
It's like
a bell.
if Comic Sans wasn't comic, and it's just not good.
It's just
I mean,
Sans.
To be
Yeah.
fair, it is not as bad as Comic Sans.
No.
However, it does
No.
bear some resemblance,
No, right.
which is still not ideal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes us feel a little uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Does anyone remember what does it say on the?
I actually took a screenshot of it to read it.
It's
Okay,
pretty
cool.
good.
Go
So
for it. Can you do that?
in a world, sorry.
Oh wow,
That was really good.
wow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The war that divides the galaxy has cast its dark shadow upon the distant desert planet Rosa. Highly valued for its natural resources, Rosa has been put under direct control of the Lungardian Federation in an attempt to prevent invasion by the Draxian Empire. Under Lungardia's watchful eye, the enslaved Rosans now find themselves forbidden to leave the planet.
You know what I just realized?
What?
In addition to just obviously being Star Wars, it's even more Star Wars. It's 3 paragraphs, just like Star Wars, and it ends with an ellipses. Although in Star Wars, it's a 4-dot ellipses, not a 2-dot
Yeah.
ellipses. So like
I was
a 3
about
dot.
to say the same
that was
thing because
know.
I'm a nerd and I've been watching Star Wars all day.
Okay. Well, Jesus Christ, what's happening? Obviously, this is a Star Wars reference as well, but it also just kind of reminds me of like how typical like the suffix or even prefix DRAX is used in any like sci-fi setting or any
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
fantasy
yeah.
True.
fantasy setting. And so I don't, maybe that's on purpose, but it makes you feel right at home. So like you
Yeah.
kind of are
Mhm.
already thinking of like Star Wars when you're firing this up. And I guess
and
that's
Sentences just sound exotic
yeah.
to English speakers.
Well, when you're starting on a desert planet,
Yeah, I was about to say, if
Yeah.
it didn't feel like Star Wars yet, you open up on a desert planet with unassuming farm
What-
boy
what-
walking
what did
you're
you
on
across the
fucking
say?
desert.
Jakku. You're on fucking Jakku.
You said that this game was like Firefly and what else?
No, I said this was steampunk Star Wars or Firefly meets Treasure Planet.
That's exactly what I got from this.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
delivers on that sort of vibe at the beginning.
Yeah, so you press X and you start your game, and Jaster, your main character, voiced by Will Friedle. You may know Will Friedle as Eric Matthews or Batman Beyond or Ron Stoppable. So this is like it was
Some
actually a really
voice
big
acting,
thing.
sister.
It was
Things
actually
I've
a really
never
big.
watched.
It was a really big deal at the time because like this is a celebrity voice acting for a video game and not like a Nolan North or like the
Me.
girl that does
It was a gift.
Yukari has done every single person ever.
Yeah.
But Will Friedle, like he hadn't even done Deadpool at the time. Like this was like had done like just Ron and Batman Beyond at this point.
That's really cool,
like
though.
those were his only cartoons, and here he was showing up and doing a full
Iconic.
like huge 100+ hour video game that like it's not even like he just did the cutscenes. Like all of his dialogue is voiced, and then on top of that, while you're walking around, he has voice lines, and so just like a sheer like
Yeah, it's a
bunch
lot.
of work to ask some like fairly like probably B-list celebrity around that time. Like he was fresh off of Batman Beyond at that point, so like
Jaster is talkative too. He's
Yeah.
very talkative.
So he Jaster's coming in off the desert on his bone camel horse thing, and like every time I started this game, because spoilers, while we were when we had decided we were doing Rogue Galaxy, that was like 3 weeks ago or something. So I've turned it on and played the first 5 seconds a bunch of times, and every time I always got stopped when he's taking off the cantina. There's like 500 threads on that screw top
Yep.
lid, and he
freaking
takes like
noticed that.
forever to take his canteen lid off, and it makes me so happy. So he is talking to himself because that's what anime boys do, and he says that one day he's going to make it off the planet, and I bet that one day is today. So
Not if you
So-
play as slowly as I play.
So the first thing we see is Steve 3PO. It's
I hate you.
it's an obvious like C3PO analog, and his name is Steve. And
Absolutely, 100%.
some unnamed mole man, we don't know his name yet, and they're looking for a guy named Desert Claw, who's a hunter. And Steve has a device that will make sure that they have the right guy. And so the mole man says that, well, it better work because the captain will be mad if we have the wrong guy.
I wonder if
this
we're
is
the wrong guy.
This probably is foreshadowing.
It's probably going to be fine.
So Jaster brings in his hunting spoils, and it's at this point that I realized that all of the animals are robots. I don't know if you guys noticed this on your smaller screens.
At least partially robot.
Yeah.
But like the dragonflies are like fully robots. Like everything is robo-ish, and I don't know if that's like going to come up as a thing, but I thought that was a really weird choice.
At this point, it's like I'm not sure if the game is the sort of game that's good enough to actually explain it, or if it's the sort of game where they're like, it looks cool, and that's all we need to put thought into it.
Yeah.
We'll find out later which kind of game we're playing.
Yeah, I actually like the fact that like, I mean, I don't really need a lot of explanation of why the mechanic, like a lot of it is, I guess, like mechanical, but it does make me feel like it's like post-apocalyptic.
Yeah,
That's my
cool.
first thought. Something like that, maybe.
Yeah. So he brings in his animals to the Ankar Plut looking dudes to get his rations. And they're like, here you go. Here's a little bit. And he's like, can I have some more? And he's like, you're lucky I'm sharing any of it at all. And he's like, well, that's not how you like instill that you're the good guys in this galactic conflict. But, you know, whatever. Thanks for saving us, I guess. So Jaster takes the food, but he doesn't eat it himself. He brings it to the priest at the chapel, and I'm just like, oh, this guy's a good kid. Like he's the like leader of the Digidestin type, like already. So at the chapel, he's talking to the priest Raul, and Jaster says that Rosa used to be peaceful back before the war, and Raul says that it's not all bad because the guards keep the monsters out, and Jaster says, do they keep the monsters out or do they keep the Rosans in?
It really makes you
Deep,
think.
man. Yeah.
Think, Mr.
Politics. Good
And
question.
at that point, we realize that the guards suck at their job because a whole lot of fucking monsters show up, and here's where your combat starts. So
Yeah, as do a lot of tutorial pop-ups.
yeah.
Oh, God. There's so many interruptions.
I think this is the part of these RPGs that I don't want to consider old school because I feel like I'm calling myself old, but
Yeah.
old school that really, I mean, they didn't have a lot of good ways of telling us this stuff.
Well, so if you play a Final Fantasy game, like, you don't get pop-ups telling you how to do combat. You get in and you play the game. Like, there's some story, yeah, but
Since
like,
you said you haven't played one since Final Fantasy VI, like Final Fantasy 15,
Okay.
you literally have a dream at the beginning of the game before the game starts, and it is a long like 20-minute section where you get all of these pop-ups and it tells you how to do everything in Final Fantasy 15. Like this was like the
Yeah, I actually found this game's comments to be relatively
now I
unobtrusive.
really don't want to play 15.
you can skip it in 15, but don't skip it because it's not a very clear battle system.
Oh, I totally skipped it.
To be fair, Final Fantasy also does have like a mutually understood battle system that
Yeah.
like,
That's
carries on
true.
through a lot.
Yeah.
Right? But the point is overall is that the tutorial system here is very intrusive.
Like it would be one
And it
one
can
thing
break
if it like
break
had
the
pop-ups while you do it. So it's like you get thrown to the fight and you're running around, and on the bottom it's like use your sword by swinging X, and you're like, cool, thanks, pop-up. But it pauses the whole thing.
But it's disrupting.
yeah.
Yeah, it's disrupting my gameplay. It's like if Navi was not a cute fairy and was just like a disembodied voice and just constantly like Navi is irritating as it is, but this is like super Navi that just keeps popping up and giving you like 5-page tutorials on everything.
It's
Also,
pretty
I'm forgetting
annoying.
one weird thing about it. It's funny, I actually, for some reason, didn't find it that unobtrusive. However, the graphic design is the weirdest thing you've ever seen. It's like made in Microsoft Paint. It's
Yeah.
got these weird ovals. The translators, I think probably the localizers probably translated it very like maybe very close to the Japanese, because there's all these lengthy phrases that don't fit in the box, and I'm like, I think the Japanese probably originally did fit in the box. Also, I could think of a way you could have worded that uses a lot fewer words. But instead, it's this lengthy, clunky thing, and it literally spills out of the like already drawn in Microsoft Paint weird like rectangle. It's actually like cute, but it's also super weird.
And I fully admit that I'm probably being more negative toward it than it actually deserves. Like, the combat is kind of convoluted and weird to understand. So, I mean, it did help. I'm the kind of guy who wants to get in and just go. I want to start playing the game, and I want to be let off the training wheels, like, pretty much immediately. This had training wheels all through the entire
which I
first
feel,
chapter.
like we'd said earlier, if this would have been marked as a prologue and not as chapter 1, it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal. So, like, if and
Yeah,
and
chapters.
because I put the artificial stop, because like how was I supposed to know that like chapter 1 would be like this? If we would have done chapters 1 and 2, would have been like, oh yeah, we had that like hour of tutorial, and then we had all that fun on the jungle planet, but today we just get to talk about the hour tutorial.
Yeah. My hour and a half on YouTube is the entire first chapter.
It's pretty short. But the good news is we get 2 of them, 2 real chapters to play this week. So it'll be exciting. I finished my playthrough of chapter 1 like almost 2 weeks ago now, because I've been on tour and I knew I wouldn't have time to play it before then. But that's just made it like frustrating every time I get game time, and I'm like, all right, what do I want to do? Oh, well, I already cleared out chapter 1, so I can't do anything. So not Rogue Galaxy.
Not Rogue Galaxy. Go back and play Persona again.
So you start going through your battle system. I will say that I find the battle system fun. I know Eli says it was pretty clunky, but like coming from Tales, where like you have like, I have never beaten a Tales game knowing how to be good at the combat. I just move out of the way so I don't get hit, and then take a couple pop shots. But I have no idea like how to chain together arts or do my special combos or anything. I just mash until I win. But and so for this one, they knew that you did that, so they took out all the combo system, and you just have X for sword and square for gun, and it's awesome. So you're like, you can just focus on the movement, which is really cool.
I spent the first bit finding it a bit too weird and jank, and also like not totally sure like the fact that you have to guard to refresh your thing. But the thing is, sometimes you're guarding. So what happens in this game is if you run out of like action points, you have to wait for a meter to recharge before you get action points back. But if you block an enemy's attack, which doesn't require timing, you just hold the guard button and then they hit you. There's not like a perfect guard as far as I know. Maybe there will be later. Then you automatically get your points back. But the thing is, so like obviously I want to do that, right? I don't want to just wait. And also I'm just like, I'm always trying to maximize. I'm always trying to play as best as possible and make and be good. So I'm like, oh, I can't wait to utilize this system and be aggressive and keep hitting them and not have to wait for recharge, just because that's cool. The problem is sometimes an enemy takes too long to notice you're there, rear up his attack, and do the attack. And by the time he actually does the attack, it's like, I just waited the same amount of time waiting for this guy to attack me. Which is maybe later in the game when it gets more actiony, you can make more use of that system. But anyway, after a certain amount of time, basically around the time I got to the mid-boss, it just clicked, and I was like, okay, this owns now. I really like this, actually. And after that point, I was having a really good time.
So I liked it, but I was like, okay, this game won't be hard. This game will just be like smash X to win, and that's okay, because Persona was hard. So like, if this was just smash X to win, I would be totally fine with it. And then you get to the mid-boss, which are these Geodude-looking dudes with like huge mouths and tiny feet, but their weak point is only on their head, but you can't shoot them because they're too big, so you have to jump up to smack them with your sword on their horn. And I'm like, oh, the monster design is where the combat is going to come from. And so like it's a lot like Zelda in that regard, where like all they ask from you in Zelda is, can you press B to swing your sword or press C right to shoot your bow and arrow? Very little of it is like a skill type thing, except for how the monsters come at you. So it's like, okay, well now it's a puzzle. You have to figure out and solve the puzzle. And once you do that, you can go in and you can fight them, but you're not having to like master elemental weaknesses or like charge attacks or anything crazy like that. It's a very simple system, and that's what, like, the moment you pull out your monography shot, spoilers, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be so much fun. Like,
yeah, this is definitely going to be a level and enemy design based game. It's like the mechanics aren't complicated. It's the level and enemy design that is where the game is, and that's like that's one way to do a game, you know. And it's it's not it's kind of unique for RPGs actually.
Systems,
RPGs are more system. It's the system that is all the design, and not the actual not what you do with the system. Yeah.
The biggest issue I personally had with it is I'm a Nintendo boy. The B button, which is X on the PS controller, is the jump button. Suddenly I'm having to jump with circle, which is the A button. I don't get it. It's not clicking. I had such a hard time jumping up to hit those things.
I mostly just forgot you could jump a lot because, again, it's a JRPG. Sometimes, like when I fought the little, what do you call them? The little, there's these little mosquito guys that you fight.
The dragonfly?
And I thought the only way to attack them
was to
shoot them with your gun because I forgot you could jump.
Yeah, that's all I did. Like, they're like, oh, jump and hit them. And I'm like, you gave me a gun. Boom, 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 boom. You're dead.
Yeah, that's what I was doing too.
The gun rules. I love games where you have a gun.
Yeah. So after you do a couple tutorial battles, you see, or you're talking to the mystery man, and you ask him who he is, and he dodges the question and says, we should go get the big monster. And Jaster's like, oh, are you a hunter? And he's like, you know it, bitch. And and so you run off to go find the big monster. It cuts away to Steve and the mole man, and they're like, oh, a monster. Desert Claw would never pass us up. Let's run to the monster and we'll find Desert Claw. So after a couple more tutorial fights, Mystery Man sees Steve and Mole Man like coming around a corner, and he's like, got a blast. And so he gives Jeff. Sorry, I forgot about that lady. So he then gives Jaster his sword, which is the 7-star sword, Desert Seeker, and also a battle recorder. And the battle recorder is my favorite part of this game so far.
Yeah, it's real tight.
Because of mechanically, because what it does is it basically gives you rewards for grinding, but it's like targeted grinding. So it's like kill 30 dragonflies, or kill 25 turtles, or kill 10 dogs, or whatever. And so like that's awesome because it's like, oh, a thing I can complete because I'm a crazy completionist person, but also it's like I need to level up. This will give me a real reward besides just my level. And the actual reason why it's my favorite thing is the names on this fucking list. 'Cause like you go and you do your grinding, and that's like completing a quest for them, and you turn in the quest, and it adjusts your ranking on like who's the best hunter in the galaxy or whatever, and that it gives you names for all 100 people on the list, and they are the funniest like names ever. They remind me of all the names from Fighting Baseball. I don't know if you are familiar with that.
Oh my gosh, that was totally what I thought too.
Yeah, let me pull some classic ones from the Rogue Galaxy list. Like some of them are puns. Like there's one that's beautiful, and then there's one that's called Pixel Shader. But the full names are beautiful. Like the ones that aren't puns. Like there's one that's Domio Domilion, or Mondo Ballrock.
Double Dom for short.
Clarity Elements. and then there's like a subset of them.
Bungie.
There's a subset of them that are like just stupid, like two stupid words put together, and like wild shark.
As opposed to all those tame sharks out there.
Or Jumbo Ozark. And it's brilliant.
The game doesn't explain this, but I feel like some of those might be like in universe, like quote unquote real names, as in it's those person's names.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones, like Desert Claw, I feel like are probably like nicknames that people named themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, somebody named themselves whatever. What was it? Something Shark.
Wild Shark.
Somebody thinks that Wild Shark is a cool name in this universe.
That sounds like a Rogadin's name in Final Fantasy XIV, because they're all just like shove two words together.
Yeah, or like that guy probably mains the ninja guy in Overwatch.
So this is what you're telling me. This is the AIM screen names of the Rogue Galaxy world.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
That's totally how I see that.
I tweeted about it. I cackled. I read all 100 names. Like it's a good time. I'll definitely put the links to those tweets in the description so you can read along with them. But
I can't wait to be better than them at being a hunter.
So
the mystery man is level. Yeah, he's level 20. Right, we said that,
Yeah.
and he tends to just annihilate shit.
yeah. So
Yeah.
because he's like so high leveled, I was like having a lot of fun with these tutorial battles, and then he just up and leaves and lets you fight the mid boss all by yourself. And
I didn't like that.
They one hit killed me. Like first time, I'm like, all right,
Wow.
let me do this by myself. And it wasn't a one hit; it was his little combo thing that they do, where it's like 4 punches, and I was wombo comboed and stuck, and they killed me. So I then got to see what the game does when you die, and it takes you back to your most recent save. In a game with save points, I obsessively save at every single save point, so that's not a
good job.
That's not
I was worried.
not a problem for me. It's games that don't have save points, like Final Fantasy VIII, and that make it hard for me, because it's like, oh, save every time you go to the world map, but that's not how I interact with world maps. With world maps, I'm like, all right, time to adventure, not here's a point where you should be saving. Anywho,
Yeah, like they don't remind you.
yeah. So they take me back to my save point, which is fine. I just had that one cutscene to go through. But the opening Star Wars crawl is there every time you load up the game, and it's different every time you load up the game, and it's a summary of your most recent event. So this was like a proto version of like all the Tales games do it, where there's like a synopsis that you can pull up in your menu. Tales games have started mapping that to a button, so you can just hold down a button to see where you're supposed to go. This was it, like, oh, I know it's been like a day or two since you played, so here's another Star Wars crawl that will tell you everything that's happened so far. So
And like I feel like there's a different one after like every cutscene.
Yeah.
Like every time anything happens, you're gonna get a new summary, which is a lot of writing.
Yeah. So this is the new summary after I got one hit killed. So like this shows you how like small of a snippet is covered by it. So the town of Salgan is totally paralyzed by the sudden attack of a mammoth beast. Hot on the beast's trail, Jaster makes his way into the residential district of town, where he encounters a mysterious hooded man. Paying no mind to the panicking Lungardian troops around them, Jaster and his newfound ally set out to subdue the giant beast. So it's like, hey, remember when you walked outside just now? Here's a new crawl about walking outside, which is awesome. And more like the game's not terribly hard, so you'll probably miss this. I almost want to restart my game at every save point just so I can see all of these type thing. Almost, not quite. So I get back in and I kill them. They're the ones I was talking about earlier, where you had to jump up and hit them in the head. And so after they go down, Steve and the Mole Man see me kill the giants. They see the sword and they're like, oh, here's Desert Claw. And they don't think to check the machine that Steve has to verify it. They're just like, oh, this is good. I hope we're right. If only we had something to check and make sure we were right.
Yeah. Well, no, doesn't the machine say it is him because of the
Yeah,
thing
because
that
of the
he has?
device, he scans.
What is that called?
I thought that
battle recorder.
I thought that was just because no, you're registered in the battle recorder as Jaster Rogue, not as Desert Claw.
That's true.
Yeah,
but I do think that, which they should have checked it, sure. But I do think that it did point at the battle recorder, and it's like ding, ding, ding.
I thought that was like Steve, because he had like a box in front of him earlier where he's like, this box will do it, and then in that scene he didn't have the box, so I thought that was just Steve's eyes being like, look, he's got the sword, he's got a battle recorder, that means he's a hunter with a badass sword, that must be Desert Claw. Type thing.
I mean, that would be in character for him.
Yeah,
so, yeah, that could be it.
Because I love Steve so much. He's my runaway favorite character of this game so far. Like he's not the like whiny person that C-3PO is. He's K2SO more than C-3PO. And
I kind of love him.
He's so great.
Well, unlike C-3PO, who is actually smart but is whiny. I feel like this guy, he thinks that he's the C-3PO, he thinks that he's the smart robot, but he's a total idiot. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it funny. It's like, just him being robot has not made him more intelligent.
They use Steve to get a couple more tutorials out, but they do it in a way better way than the pop-ups do, where Steve is like, look, he's a giant beast, go for his weak points. And then Simon, because we find out, well, man's name is Simon, but Simon's like, Steve, he's like the best hunter in the galaxy, why are you telling him all this? And Steve's like, I don't know, I just feel compelled to. And I'm like,
yeah, it's good.
It's so good. So they grab Jasper and are like, all right, let's leave. And and they're like, we have more jobs for you than beast hunting. And Jaster's like, it's going to destroy the town, so I'm going to go and fight it. And they're like, oh, good old resolute Desert Claw, as if that's not a normal thing. Where it's like, okay, cool, like we can go and do these jobs, but like people are dying. So
yeah.
So they're like, okay, well then we'll come with you, and then we'll go on their ship after we beat the salamander. So you show up at the end of the residential district shortly after, and you fight your first boss fight. What did you guys think about this boss fight?
So you can watch me struggle against it on YouTube. Real quick.
We forgot to plug it that you were doing that this time.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. The first hour and a half video of Rogue Galaxy is up. It's the entire first chapter. I died. I did figure out immediately that I gotta hit the legs.
Because it's a video game.
Yeah, because I've done Garelon in World of Warcraft. I know how this shit works. So did that. And then, I got whacked around a whole bunch because I'm pretty sure I just totally blocked out how to block when all the tutorials were popping up. I was getting increasingly more frustrated with them. And so it's like, I'm not paying attention to this. Which Tuxedo Ken should be on me about that shit. He should be paying attention for me when I'm not doing it. Got the gun that does the platforms. And it seemed like it was easy at first because it was like snapping me to each platform. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, I don't have to really pay attention. I just have to jump at the right times. No, that's not true.
No.
That's not true at all. So it knocked me off after I smacked its heart around for a while. And then...
Yeah, so the monography shot is like awesome, but its implementation, I can tell, is probably going to be a source of frustration for me. So like you said, it feels like it's snapping you to the thing because it does, but the hitbox for the snappy mechanic is like a little bit above the platform. So you actually have to like to be able to use that, you have to jump higher than the platform and be kind of perfect anyways. And so like you can feel it snapping you to it, but it's really hard to like it doesn't snap you to it from like a wide enough area. It just feels like a thing that pushes you off the platform when you're trying to jump on it.
It's like there's an invisible bowl, and you have to get over the rim of the bowl in order to land on the spot.
And I'm really bad at 3D platforming. Like super hardcore bad at 3D platforming. 2D platforming.
Let's not play Kingdom Hearts 1 then. That's the worst 3D platforming in the history.
There's a lot of reasons to not play it, but yes, that's one of them.
I have played Kingdom Hearts 1. It was a long time ago though. But so real bad at 3D platforming, pretty good at 2D platforming, not so much 3D. So after I got knocked off the first time, I struggled to get back up onto its head. And I'm just like, well, it's not working. And I'm like getting smacked around. I died. I had to come back. I was super frustrated. eventually I got through it, but it was harrowing. And watch my YouTube video. Like, you can berate me in the comments. Please feel free. Tell me everything that I'm doing wrong, because I'm sure that it's due to me missing something or not paying enough attention because I was frustrated with the tutorial pop-ups.
So one thing that I had mentioned to this to you in the Discord. This is for the benefit of Matt, who didn't even realize you could skip cutscenes just now. So you can use your control stick to change your camera. Their idea of normal and inverted is backwards from every other game ever.
Yes.
So go and invert your controls.
I switched that immediately. I was like, what the fuck? Invert, it says it's
like
normal.
that, though.
Yeah.
Especially older games, it's like it hasn't been standardized yet.
Yeah. So so if you're still having trouble with that, they have a Zelda button. I call it a Zelda button because Zelda used it on the N64, and everything just feels like that afterwards, where you can press a button to snap the camera behind you. So instead of having to worry about the 360 degrees of movement in two directions, you can just snap it behind you in whichever direction you're facing, which will help out a lot. And you also can take off auto lock, which I feel might be hard for guns, but I haven't tried it myself yet. But that's the first thing I'm doing when I go to play later tonight, is turning off auto lock so that I can go to the one that I want. So many times, like this, he's coming at me. I see him coming, and I'm like, oh, let me stop this guy from coming at me. But I'm locked to the guy across the screen, and I'm like, all right, attack. And he's like, oh, over here, and then I get smacked by the other guy. So I'm probably going to take auto lock off and use the Zelda button a lot more, because
I don't think I figured out the Zelda button while I was playing.
Yeah,
I think it's like R3 or something, or L3, one of those.
Yeah, it's. I thought it was just a natural like trigger. I don't think it was I don't think it was a click the stick.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, I never heard them called L3 or R3 when you click the thumbstick. I did not know that was like that was the first time I'd seen a game use that particular moniker. Yeah, I guess.
Gotcha. Well, to try all the buttons.
Yeah, try all the buttons, click all the sticks. One of them will do it, and then memorize it, and that'll probably help. So, I did like about the boss that like it really was a good first boss to tell me how the game is going to be, because like I said earlier, I was worried that the combat was going to be really simple, and then the boss was like, oh hey, you want some platforming and some like puzzly mechanics, as though attack the legs, while Steve is yelling, hey Jaster, attack the legs. It's not really a puzzle, but it's puzzle-ish. So if you took the Steve out of it, you would be able to like have to figure it out. So I feel, as long as, because I said this about Persona, as long as the next ones don't have Steve just telling you the answer to the puzzle, I feel the combats will get really fun and really interesting. There's a chance though that Steve will just tell you the answer, like soon tells you all the answers in Okami. So honestly, I'm fine with that. Please tell me what to do, Steve.
Well, if Steve doesn't tell us, we will.
Yeah. Just hit us up in the Discord, and we'll be like, here's what you do.
Did any of y'all remember to use your dang abilities?
Yes.
So
yeah, because for me that was the main tip. It's like, if you remember to put on your lightning sword, then those bad guys do not have that much health.
Yeah. One thing, so I was looking at, there's this website called Before I Play that Matt, I'm name dropping Matt a lot in the Discord. Hey, what's up, Matt? So he posted it in the Discord for the page for Rogue Galaxy, and they say that almost all of your other skills aren't as good as just the ones that buff your sword, etc. So use those as often as possible, and then go to town on everybody. And so if you're looking through your revelation flow, which we didn't even get to, but that's how you unlock abilities, is through your revelation flow. When you're going through there, if you see something that doesn't sound like a fire sword, lightning sword, illusion sword, those sort of things, if it's a good item that it needs, like if another character needs it, or if it's like a high level healing item, just hold on to it for a while. Like, don't instantly go into the revelation flow. Like, just focus on the sword ones, because those are the ones that will get you the most the most bang for your buck. I will be filling out my revelation flow because it will be a thing that I can complete in a video game.
Yeah, me too. But maybe I'll fill it out in a specific order because of that tip. So yeah, good tip.
Yeah. So so you finally take the salamander down. Rizzo, did you have anything to talk about with your experience for the salamander?
Not really. It was like a standard boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a good first boss.
Yeah.
I'm watching Eli's playthrough for it, and I'm just like, yeah, that's about right.
I'm hoping that this podcast will take less time than it would take somebody to play through this thing. So
I mean, there's not much left.
No, there's not much left at all. So you kill the salamander, and Steve and Simon are like, "Yay, you're awesome!" And then you see over in the corner, watching the whole thing, Desert Claw is like, his potential may be even bigger than mine is. And
oh my,
accurate.
And so one thing, this is not related. I just remembered it. This was something. Oh, actually, it comes up later. Never mind. We're not where I thought I was. So where am I actually? Okay. So Jaster tells Steve and Simon his name, says like, you can call me Jaster, you don't have to keep calling me Desert Claw. And they're like, okay, our boss wants to hire you. Our boss is named Dorgan Goa, the space pirate. And Jaster's like, wow, pirates suck, but I want to go see space. So what's your favorite thing about space? Mine's space. And
yeah, he goes nuts.
Yeah, he's literally the space cube or space thing
core.
Space core from Portal 2. So Steve and Simon are like, hey, we're going to be at our ship. It's not at the docking bay because Lungardians suck. We're out in the desert. Come and see us by dawn, and if you want to come with us. And then a tutorial, instead of Jaster just saying it by himself, which would have been better, a tutorial pops up and says, you better explore everything while you have the chance to. As soon as you want to end the chapter, go to the yellow star. So it then lets you go and do the one side quest of the first chapter. But I still spent about 4 hours messing around and clearing out my battle recorder at this point. Did you guys do anything, or did you just end the chapter?
I explored quite a bit. I didn't fill out all my battle recorder. I think I may have filled out 2 of them in addition to the bosses that had already been done.
Mm-hmm.
I did explore a lot. All the NPCs, a lot of the NPCs have unique dialogue. The writing in this game isn't that good. So eventually I stopped talking to the NPCs because they never had anything interesting or well written to say. I will say I'm being a little hard on it because we just finished Persona 3.
Yeah.
And I was simultaneously playing Dragon Quest 3 for the iOS. So that's 2 games with batshit incredible writing.
Yeah.
So, hard to keep up. But the game does have some incredible architecture. And I did that for a while and took a bunch of cool screenshots. I won't talk about it. I'll just share the screenshots. But there's some really, really cool world design in this game.
Speaking of the NPCs, they do a thing that's my favorite thing that Trails in the Sky does, where I went back to talk to NPCs and they say different stuff about where you are. So that's probably why each individual line isn't immaculately written, because not only is there all the writing for the crawls that update every time you save, but each NPC also updates its dialogue each time you get through a chunk of that chapter, which is
There's so much writing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's not to the level that it is in Trails in the Sky. Trails in the Sky, it's a cutscene with each person, and the cutscene is different instead of just an NPC saying "Oh, the guards didn't do anything to save us this time" or whatever.
There were a few cute lines. Did you ever talk to the guards while the monsters were attacking?
I did not.
Most of them were like, man, the guards are attacking. What can you do? I didn't take screenshots. I should have, but there were a number of different guard lines. They were repeated, but there were still at least 5 or 6.
Uh-huh.
And they always had some excuse why they weren't helping. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you're a guard. You're supposed to be helping. And it actually was pretty good.
Nice. The one thing I did see when I was going around talking to everybody is one person said that the Lungardians were killed by the beasts. It was mostly them that died. and
good.
I thought that was really cool, and it might come up again because a lot of NPCs said similar stuff after I found that guy. The one side quest that you have is you can go back to talk to Raul before you leave, and it's a side quest you can do because when it says oh, hey, do everything you want to do before you go to this point, it's a picture of you talking to Raul. So
oh my god, I didn't even notice that. That's
it's
really funny.
literally just like, hey, this is a thing. Go do this. Here's your final tutorial. So you go to talk to Raul, and you tell him that he's leaving, and he's just like, you tell him that you're leaving, but you don't say where. You're being cagey about it. He's being cagey about his feelings for you, and you're just like, not really like being. You're not really like saying what you're feeling, but it's so it's like a really tense moment. I really liked it. It's like hard to describe without just watching it. It's a lot of like silent looks and phrases that are just like the crops look good this year. That means like I'm going to miss you or whatever, like those types of things.
Strangely subtle thing.
Yeah. So you can go and talk to him there, and then you head back to the West Gate, which reminds me, the mini map is not rotated north at the top, and it gives you a compass right next to it to tell you where the north is. But it still was so bizarre to be like, oh, head west, and you go south on your map, and you can't rotate the mini map, and it was weird.
Yeah.
I did not notice that. I didn't even notice the west. I just always go towards like the little like marker, so I didn't notice that. Thank God, because if I did notice, I would have been very.
Wow, you really like this game.
I do a lot. Like I was glad because like there's a world in which I wait 15 years for an RPG and then I play it and it's bad and I hate it and like I don't like anything about it. So I'm really glad that I'm like I got to the end of chapter one. I purposely didn't save and restarted my console so I could go back to an older one to go and clear out chapter one because that's me. So you go to the West Gate and you get a Yago, which is the skull cow camel thing from the beginning. And right as you're about to leave, Raul shows up and says, "You think you could leave without saying goodbye?" As if I didn't do the side quest just now to go and say goodbye. Raul says that he found you as found Jaster as a baby, and Jaster has been obsessed with space ever since then. And today, Jaster has the same wanderlust in his eyes. And it cuts to a flashback scene, and I noticed the weirdest thing. So Jaster has a tattoo under his eye, and I figured that it was JRPG, and he just had a tattoo under his eye. But no, it's extremely JRPG, and it's a birthmark that he's had ever since he was a baby. But it's like hard lines, like it's like a lightning bolt style rune type thing. Mm-hmm. Like it is not like
pretty sick birthmark.
Yeah, it's not like just a normal ass like bruise looking birthmark. It is like a rune on his face that he's had since he was a baby. Which
Ken and I were.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Ken and I were joking about that because it's the same color as his eyebrows. We're like, he's just got a weird patch of facial hair shaped like some sort of bizarre dolphin.
So that's perfect. It's like he's in middle school. He's like, you know what? I think I want to grow a mustache, but instead of a mustache, I just want some cheek hair. So Raul talks about finding you as a baby and all of that stuff, and how he's so proud of you and all of that. So Jaster promises to save the planet, and he sets off to cross the desert to see their ship. And it cuts to an FMV, and the animation is gorgeous in it. Like I really loved it. Like as soon as because like the game already is gorgeous, but like
it's long too.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And so he's walking across the desert, and he's like, "I'm going to do it. I'm finally doing it. I'm going to go see space. I love space. Everything about space is awesome. Space is great." And then he gets comes over this hill, and he sees just a big ass pirate ship just sitting in the sand, and he's like, "I'm going to board that ship tomorrow." And I'm like, "Go board it now. Why are you waiting till tomorrow? You can see it, but whatever." They said by dawn, not at dawn. So he waits for some reason, and so it's like dawn, and he's walking over there, and now is when like the opening credits start, and it's like super cinematic looking, and I like was like really in awe of just like it felt epic. Like it felt like you were starting on this huge cinematic journey. Like it felt as if it felt like I was about to start something like I did 10 years ago when I started watching the first Marvel Cinematic Universe thing. And it's like, because like now, like at the end of this week, I'm going to be watching Avengers 3, and it's going to be like the culmination of all of that stuff. And it's going to be like I have so many words about Marvel right now. Like I could just die. And and like it felt like that sort of thing where it was like this huge epic undertaking that I was about to go in, and they did it by just saying directed by whoever on the screen. But
they did have a really good font. That was probably part of it.
It probably was the font choice. So then the ground starts to rumble, and a giant sandworm thing comes out and eats your horse. So Jaster turns around and says,
"What is that? That freaky thing!"
I immediately was like, "Do I have to fight that? I don't want to fight that."
Right? Like that's what I thought too. But then in proper JRPG style, you jump up and have way better moves than you do like while fighting the game. Like you slice his whole tentacle in half. I'm like, look, a turtle nearly killed you earlier. There's no way you can fight this when the level 1 turtle was beating you up.
He was summoning the power of anime.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, the power of God and anime on his side.
And so like at that point, Simon is on the ship, and the whole time he's been like, "Hey, Jaster, good to have you." And at this point, he's just like, "You're on your own, kid." And they just the ship just starts to fucking leave.
Never mind that worm's gonna eat our ship, so bye.
And so at that point, the worm like comes out more, and what I thought was the sandworm is 2 like ear tentacles on a more giant sandworm. Like it's huge. It's like the size of a mountain, and there's like
worm.
There's like 40 of them. They all just like show up. I'm like, how did these guards with their crappy rifles prevent the town from being eaten by these things? Like there's no amount of like patrolling outside of a door that could have stopped these things from eating it. Yeah. I have a feeling that maybe this might be a foreshadow of something like big bad style happening, because Jaster is like literally is like, "What is that thing? I've never seen this before," which makes me think that things are happening TM and causing this to be a thing. But that's just a little guess. So since the ship is leaving, Jaster runs up to like where the lifeboat just was to be able to get on, but Simon pulls it up and just like, "No hard feelings, we'll put up a tombstone for you." And so you're just like, well, shit. So you're running away, and you see there's like 40 of these things, and all their tentacles are like coming at you, and you're about to die. And then a girl on a speeder bike comes down off the ship and grabs Jaster's hands and saves you from the worms and takes you back to the ship. And I think she introduce herself there? Is that in chapter 2?
Yeah, right then she's like, "Hi, grab my hand. I'm so and so."
Yeah.
No, she doesn't say her name.
Oh no, I didn't think she did.
Someone else says it for her.
Yeah, and so
I imagined it.
I think Simon mentioned her name or something after you got on the ship.
Yeah, so so she's just like,
because I was like, I hope she is the captain. Please let her be the captain.
Yeah.
Spoilers, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not.
So she saves you from the worms and takes you to the ship, and that's the end of chapter 1. We all technically played a little bit of chapter 2, but I think for the podcast we will stop our discussion at the end of chapter 1. The things that happen at the beginning of chapter 2, before the save point, is just meeting some other crew members, but we'll go into that more in detail when we do chapter 2. Give us a good start and end point. Yeah, instead of like trying to, because like there were a couple times in Persona where like we ended on the first and there was like either nothing happened or the beginning of a plot line that we couldn't really do anything with, and so I think ending it at the hard end of the chapter is a good one. But that pretty much does it for this week. Was there anything else big picture that anyone wanted to talk about? Because now is our chance, because like starting next week we'll have twice the, if not more than that, stuff to talk about.
I was just gonna plug my Let's Play again. We're just gonna be doing the chapters in big long chunks because I don't know the best way to break it up. I don't know if a chapter is gonna be longer than one or whatever. So it's just easier for me to put it up as one big long video. So chapter 2 is gonna be its own video, and then chapter 3 will be another one. And those will be coming out in between the Earthbound videos. So I've been posting Earthbound every other day on the even days. So expect Rogue Galaxy to come out on odd numbered days sometime this week.
Awesome. So, yeah. The Revelation flow I mentioned briefly.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like the sphere grid in Final Fantasy X, from what I remember of Final Fantasy X, and where like it's a set pattern and you have to work your way through the pattern to unlock stuff. So it's like it gives you a lot of agency and choice as you're going along, but you still can't like skip ahead and get Ultima at level 1 type thing. The way that this one is different is you don't have like ability points or anything. You just find items. And so like if you find a CO2 canister, that's an item that you need for like your freezing spell or whatever, which is weird, but they make it easy in your shops and stuff. If there's an item there that fits into someone's revelation flow, its icon changes to a light bulb. So if you're going through a shop and you see some light bulbs, you just buy all the ones with light bulbs. And then in the revelation flow, you don't have to scour the whole thing and see if you have an item. They'll be flashing like silvery black, and that means that they have something you can put it in, and when you open it, it snaps you to the space that you have unlocked. So if you aren't sure if you have everything or not, you can exit out, and if they're still flashing, go back in, and it'll snap you to where you need to look, which is awesome.
I do want to share one little tip in case you missed this. Just because earlier you said it's a set path. Did you notice that you have multiple starting positions?
Yeah, you have multiple starting positions.
Wouldn't want you to miss that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting system. It's funny because it's your character's advancement, right? Like you use it to learn new moves. But it has nothing to do with. It is solely based on loot. So it's funny because usually character advancement and loot are different things. They're totally separate. Like what does getting items have to do with learning new abilities? But it's cool. It's like, oh, this is what the loot's for. The loot is for plugging in, and now magically I know how to do a cool move.
And it accomplished a thing that I didn't even realize was a quote unquote problem in other JRPGs, where like other JRPGs, they want to give it some sort of realism. So you'll fight a beast and you'll get a beast claw type thing. But usually those are just junk you sell to an NPC, or in some games it's a crafting material, but it's mostly just it's junk. This one,
it's really just money.
Yeah, it's really just money. But this one, like, it made me like I would be fighting something and I would get a beast claw, and I hadn't gotten a beast claw before, and I would check my revelation flow to see if it would fit into it, and it made me care about trash drops like way more than
because you're like, oh god, I hope I get this one thing.
But so far that's pretty cool. I do hear that it's mostly irrelevant and you should save the items in most cases, but I'm not going to.
It reminds me of the grid system from Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's similar to in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I haven't played enough of 12 to remember that, so we'll have to play that on here one day.
There's one small thing I want to share, just as a little hype for the next episode. I looked it up, and the next 2 chapters that we'll be talking about next time, Chapter 2 is called The Jungle Planet, as we've said, which that sounds exciting. But Chapter 3 is called The Star God's Altar.
Ooh.
Interesting.
So, I'm real excited to see what those 2 phrases mean.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the first one it's pretty silly.
Yeah. All right. So I think that about does it for the week. Rizzo, do you want to play us out, Keyboard Cat?
Yeah, sure. If you like what you hear and you want to help us cover hosting costs and game costs, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/RPG Book Club. If you just want to talk to us, we have a Twitter at RPG Book Club, an email at rpgbookclub@gmail.com, and our favorite, our Discord, which doesn't have a catchy URL, so you can find a link in the description. Sorry. Join us next week. Join us next week when we will play to the end of Chapter 3, The Star God's Altar. For the RPG Book Club, I've been Wild Shark.
I've been Mosquito Dubé.
I've been Gape Gay. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. It's Grape Gray. I'm Grape Gray.
And I'm Calvin Jr.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. You guys have a good time.
Bye.
Did you say gaping gay?
Gaping gay, actually, it's even worse.
Gape Gay. It's Grape Gray, but I was like, oh, I misread it.
That escalated very quickly, Eli.